Hi, my name is Claude Landry. I'd like to tell you a story about when I was working up in a raise in northwestern Ontario for contractors. Uh, I was actually an underground hard rock miner, working. We were driving raises up in at Williams Mine. The mine was in its infancy at the time, and we were basically developing the underground infrastructure. Now, when we talk about raising, we're basically mining up. So, so basically, what you do is for the equipment that we use to drive these raises are called Alamac raise climbers, and basically you're bolting, you're mining up through the rock. So it's basically a platform over top of a man basket, but all coupled together and hooked up to a monorail. So basically, when you're installing the monorail, you install it at what we call the back, the roof. And when you get into your man basket, you're lying flat in your back. And when you round the curve to go up the Alamac, to go up the raise, you're basically standing upright. And how we mine these raises is basically we blast 8 feet at a time. And it's basically the same idea as mining laterally, except we're going up. But we blast 8 feet at a time, and we add our rail, and we go on in that sort of sense that we just advance 8 feet at a time. So we're about 150 feet up the raise. We had driven about 150 feet, and the plan was to drive a secondary raise off the Alamac. And these secondary raises are called fingers. And what they do is what these fingers are basically they're arteries that would bring us to the various levels, so we can hook up to the chutes that would dump the muck down. So the muck would go down the finger, down to the main raise, down to the bottom of the mine, where we'd transport it to the loading pocket, and then transport it to surface. Anyways, we're about 40 feet up this finger, and these fingers are driven conventionally. They're not. We don't drive them off the Alamac. So what we have to do is we have to drive 6 feet in, and then start. And they're a 5x5 opening. They're not 10x10 like the main Alamac, so they're half the size. So we're about 40 feet up the finger, and we come in to a fresh blast. We wash down, and my partner said, "Listen, I'm going to go up, and I'm going to install a platform and scale the face. And in the meantime, you get everything ready to go up. Come on up, and then come up, and then I'll give you a call, and you come and join me." So good enough. He goes up. I start getting everything ready. I got to stay out of the way. I got to stay out pretty well. Stay on the Alamac. On the Alamac, I got to get my tools ready to go up. It took me about 25 minutes, so I wasn't hearing anything. So I gave him a call. I said, I asked him how it was going up there, and he said, I heard him say, "Come on up." So I started going up. No questions asked. I jump on the ladder, grab my tools, and away I go. I got up about 12 feet, and he dropped a chunk of loose on me about the size of a football. And that piece of loose basically got the side of my head, grazed the side of my head, and got me in the shoulder, knocked me clear off the ladder. Now, my hat went flying, my lamps busted, and the only thing that saved my life that day was that I didn't lose consciousness. I was able to reach out and grab a bolt that we installed to hang our tools. So I'm lying there, bleeding, of course, and I'm hollering. I'm trying to get his attention. I finally did get his attention. He came down right away, and he realized that I was down, and he was a mess. He thought he had really, really seriously hurt me, and he felt bad, but it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. So basically, he stood me up, and we brought me on the Alamac. I started stretching, making sure everything worked. Of course, the blood coming down the side of my head. We had a first aid kit on the Alamac, so he patched me up. And he said, "You want to go to surface?" I said, "No, I'm not going to surface." I said, "I'm going to go down and get my hat, and we're going to carry on with our day." So I went down and found my hat in the muck, and it was intact. Put it back on, and we continued. Now, in this day and age, it doesn't work that way. That was a near miss. That would have to be reported and investigated. And basically, the reason we didn't say anything back 30 years ago is because when you worked for a contractor and you went up because you were hurt, they basically sent you home. They fired you, and they didn't want anybody working unsafe. They didn't really have to report it, but they could take matters into their own hands and send you home. So that being said, like in this day and age, that's all reported. That's a near miss. It's investigated. The whole ball of wax. Industry really holds. Ministry really holds industry accountable for safety, and in turn, industry holds their people accountable. If you do any kind of safety violations, you may commit. You're either you're reprimanded, or it could be cause for termination. They'd rather see you. They'd rather send you home than have to go to your house and knock on your door and tell your family you're not coming home. So, anyways, when I look at the big picture, I was definitely in a rush. When I look at the safe start questions that I might have to answer, I was definitely in a rush, and I was complacent. There was a rush. It was finish, go home. Basically, let's finish her up and go home. And where if I would have waited another 5 minutes, I probably would have been done a lot quicker anyway, and we would have been home and without a cut on my head and without a sore shoulder and the whole bit. But and I was definitely complacent. 31 years old. I'm a minor highballer. Just let's get her done. So that's basically what happened. Now, as far as critical errors are concerned, I definitely put myself in the line of fire. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was just a stupidity on my part, negligence. I didn't stop once to think about doing a job analysis. There's not once. If I would have analyzed my risks for 1 second and think of the consequences that they could have had, just by asking them to repeat themselves, it would have caused a whole lot less hardship. So basically, that's it was all my fault, and the ripple effect it could have had on my family. Really, 3 young boys at home and a young wife. Somebody had to go and tell them that your dad and your husband isn't coming home today. That's not a good thing. Because if I wouldn't have been able to grab onto that boat, who knows, or lost consciousness, I could have bounced around down at the bottom there. I wouldn't have had any resistance, and ended up 150 feet down the bottom of that race. So it's not something that you like to think about too much. But once you think about it, it taught me a big lesson. As far as the message I'm going to relay to you today is that we have one life, and we have to look after it.